The youth right now are moving through a very desperate situation. They feel they're being thrown behind, way behind the transitional process.
خرجنا ثورات، عملنا أشياء كثيرة لتنفذ مطالبنا، لكن للأسف إلى الآن لم تنفذ أي مطلب من مطالب الشباب، ولكن نفذت مطالب مثل ما أقول أنا السياسات العليا والقيادات العليا، والأحزاب استفادوا من هذا الوضع، ولكن الشباب المستقل أهمل تماما من هذا الموضوع.
Although many have been complaining that the revolution, the youth revolution, had been hijacked by parties, by armed groups, at the end of the day it was them that stirred this up, that caused the change to happen, that went to the street, and that left a great impression on the international community and I think on their own country as well.
الظروف صعبة، أنا عارف إن الظروف صعبة علينا كلنا، بس في الأول في الأخير هناك أمل. نحن الشباب نحن أمل الأمة.
What's happening so far, that we've only accomplished the first point of the GCC initiative, which is appointing Hadi to be the new president of Yemen during the transitional period, but actually failed to move towards any further accomplishments.
There is also misunderstanding among many youth activists and young Yemenis in general about what a transition involves. For many, there's the idea that the immediate transition will mean that things get better. But I think there needs to be more communication that in any transition process around the world, we've seen that things usually get worse before they get better.
Regarding the national dialogue, if I would start, you should do a huge part of preparations to make a fruitful dialogue. Part of that is resolving some of the problems happening on the ground, and also involving all the parts of the national dialogue into the process.
Most of those who lost their lives during the protests last year were youth. And in addition to that, there are many other grievances that extend to the Southerners, to the Houthis. So there does need to be a legitimate and transparent body to facilitate a transitional justice process that is seen as accepted by all Yemenis.
عشان تنجح المرحلة الانتقالية يحتاج أولاً جهود الشباب، أيضاً أن تكون القاعدة الشعبية كلها راضية عن فكرة الحوار وهذه الأشياء، وهنا هي المشكلة. هناك الآن أكثر من تيار وكل يطالب بمطالبه، والبعض هناك يعني في البعض مش قابل فكرة الحوار تماماً.
We're talking about the youth who went out to the streets calling for change. We're talking about the civil society, and we're talking about women. Those three components are still missing in the whole formula. Of course, there is still a huge resistance from those parts to get involved in any process without resolving many of the problems on the ground. And part of it is because that the typical political parts feel like they can accomplish the results of the national dialogue without the need of involving such components into the process.
I've seen many good things with youth. To be honest, I've also seen that there is sometimes a lack of willingness to work together. There's a lot of distrust that needs to be overcome. And it's unfortunate that the youth haven't until now been able to create a joint body where they can live their differences. We're not talking about a unified stance where everyone thinks the same, quite the contrary, but to have a better organization for the youth. healthy for youth to continue to keep up the pressure, the political pressure by peaceful means for change, because change doesn't happen by itself, and there is resistance to that change, and it will remain.
في وقت من الأوقات الساحات سوف ترفع، والحشد الجماهيري مهم، لكن من الصعب استخدامه في كل الأوقات لتحقيق الأهداف اللي الشباب يحبوها أو يشتروا يحققوها.
For many civil society actors and youth activists in engaging with the transition process has been a general lack of technical, financial, and policy expertise to be able to make their voices heard in the transition period. So a key aspect of Saferworld's approach in Yemen is to work with young people to help them better understand how these processes work, and also to work with national government to help them open up opportunities for young people to engage with these processes and influence them. The Amplifying Youth Voices project is a Saferworld project in partnership with Resonate Yemen. It's funded by the German Federal Foreign Office and the Institute for Foreign Cultural Relations in Germany. The reason that we started this project was in the context of Yemen's transition in late 2011 after the peaceful youth protests for change. And we felt that it was necessary to support a diverse group of youth voices, make their voices heard in the transition period.
بالنسبة لنا كانت شراكة ممتازة جدا، شراكة استراتيجية، لأنها يعني جاءت متطابقة للعمل الذي احنا حابين ان احنا نعمله، والذي يرافق قدرات الشباب في مجال القيادة المدنية. فاحنا كان بالنسبة لنا عندنا قناعة تامة انه الشباب ضروري يزودوا بأدوات تمكنهم من الاستمرار في التأثير حتى وإن في وقت من الأوقات رفعت الساحات.
In Germany, there was a big wave of solidarity with the peoples, not just in Yemen, but throughout the Arab world, when all of a sudden the old paradigm that somehow the Arab world can't be democratic was just tipped over and really doesn't exist anymore. And therefore, the German government also tried earlier on to support the youth in organizing themselves through organizations like Saferworld, Resonate, various other institutions, to help local youth groups build up their capacity in order to make their voices heard.
We also conducted 2 advocacy training sessions for these youth activists so that they are better able to make informed policy and advocacy points to decision makers at the governor level or at the national level.
This program brought 60 youth leaders to give them training in advocacy messaging, mobilizing, and how to do lobbying, how to identify your demands, then how to prioritize your problems, how to find solution, and from that, how can you conduct an effective meeting with the policymakers and come out with an effective result.
كنت من ضمن 5 أفراد من تعز طلعنا ندرس الدورة التدريبية في صنعاء. اجتمعنا من كل عموم المحافظات، وهذه الميزة الحلوة إنه شاب تعز التقى بشاب صنعاء، وشاب صنعاء التقى بشاب لاحق، ولاحق التقى بشاب عدن. كنا نعرف احتياجاتنا، بس ما نعرفش كيف نعبر عن احتياجاتنا، نعرف أين هي الحقوق، لكن ما نعرفش طريقة وآلية المطالبة بتلك الحقوق.
أنا كنت حابة من خلال هذه الدورة أعرف كيف ممكن إن أنا أعمل دور أو أقوم بعمل أحصل من خلاله مخرج. في حملات المناصرة هي هذه السياسة القائمة فيها، نقوم بعدة استراتيجيات، نحدد القضية، نتبع عدة استراتيجيات، ونرى من خلال هذه الاستراتيجيات إيش المخرج اللي ممكن نحن نحصل عليه.
عرفت ما هي قواعد حملات المناصرة وكيف تقام ولمن أوجهها وكيف ومتى وإيش الأدوات التي أستخدمها. قبل ما كنت أعرف عن هذه الأشياء أي شيء نهائياً.
أتمنى في حلول عام 2020 إنه هذا البرنامج يكون سائد في الوطن العربي.
تعرفت على الكثير من الأشياء التي كنت أجهلها في المرحلة الانتقالية، في الحوار. أيضاً عرفت إيش هي الأشياء اللي يهتم بها المجتمع الدولي والمجتمع المحلي، إيش تحتاج اليمن في المرحلة القادمة. والآن أعتقد إنه من وجهة نظرنا إنه الشباب فعلاً يستطيع أن يتوجه إلى صانع القرار المناسب لتحقيق أهداف معينة بواسطة قاعدة شعبية وأشياء من حملات المناصرة.
It was a great eye-opener for us to see how active youth were throughout the country on various initiatives in civil society organizations or in local charities. But what we also realized after the first advocacy training session was that young people gained a lot from the conflict analysis tools that we gave them, and their ability to address and understand the structural causes of many of the day-to-day problems that they face was probably, from the feedback that I received from the participants, the most important tool that they got from the workshops. The third aspect for this project was to put the theory to practice, and this was done in a number of components. The first aspect involved giving small grants to 5 of the youth activists that we were working with to work on their own advocacy campaigns in their own governorates and cities. And for others, it was more of technical and encouragement throughout the 3 months between the 2 workshops.
So they start going back to their own communities, doing small campaigns, advocating for message they wanted to advocate for. For example, child violence, youth political participation, women political participation.
There were a number of campaigns in Aden, Hajjah, Taiz, Ib, and Sana'a around a number of different issues, from the protection of children in conflict to no weapons campaigns.
طبعا المشروع اللي ركزنا عليه في الدورة والذي أخذنا فيه منحة صغيرة واشتغلنا المشروع كشباب عدن هو مشروع عدن من غير سلاح. طبعا كان المشروع هي بذرة أمل إن احنا نفكر كيف حنقدر نمسح اللي هي ظاهرة السلاح التي هي دخيلة على عدن، كيف حنقدر نبعد شيء بسيط منها أو نخفف وطأة هذه المشكلة الكبرى.
كانت فكرة حملة المناصرة اللي هي حملة تكفي عنفاً لمناهضة العنف ضد الأطفال في المدارس. هذه الحملة هي جاءت من معاناة حقيقية من أخي الصغير. أخي الصغير من الناس اللي تعرض للعنف كثير في المدرسة، بالذات المدرسة اللي مختصة بالأولاد يكون فيها العنف أكثر من أي مدرسة ثانية. نحن حسينا إنه أخي الصغير بدأ في أشياء كثير تفقد من داخله بسبب العنف اللي حاصل، مش بس له، كانوا أخي الصغير كان نموذج لأطفال كثير في المدرسة يتعرضوا لنفس النوع من أنواع العنف.
قمت بعمل حملة تمكين الشباب سياسيا وشاركهم في الحوار الوطني، وذلك بحشد أكبر عدد من الشباب لتدريبهم وتأهيلهم لكي يستطيعون أن يشتركوا في الحوار الوطني، وإن لم يشتركوا بطريقة مباشرة فيتم إشراكهم بطريقة غير مباشرة، وهو عمل توصيات مسودة توصيات باسم شباب محافظة حجة يكتبون فيها أهم مطالبهم التي يريدون أن يوصلونها إلى مؤتمر الحوار الوطني.
فحبيت من المبادرة ليلاس إننا أركز على الأطفال المتأثرين سلباً بعد الصراعات السياسية المسلحة. عملنا استبيانات ونزلنا الأماكن الخطرة للأطفال، تواجد الأطفال يكون فيه خطر، ووزعناها على أكثر من 200 طفل بمعايير معينة نختار من الأطفال اللي راح ندربهم، لأننا مبادرة وفي بدايتها بندرب فقط 25 طفل.
When they returned, we were surprised by just how active they were. They had done many campaigns. They appeared on many radio and television shows and met with many government and local officials over the course of the 3 months.
زميلي المنسق المديري مايكل من الداعمين كثير لهذا الداخل المشاريع. بيكون فيها فرادة، بيكون فيها جدية، بيكون فيها توصل الخدمة بشكل مباشر للناس.
We had a policy tour, a policy learning tour, where we brought 10 youth from across the country to start having intensive meeting with the policy makers from embassies, ministries, international and national NGOs, experts. So they start understanding the whole scene, the whole political scene from a policy maker perspective.
For them to start addressing all the policymakers, first of all, to know who's doing what and what are the role of each.
The final aspect is a roundtable debate, which brought together youth and policymakers to discuss the key issues identified by young people in the past year and to set forth concrete policy proposals on these issues. There are many challenges to Yemen, but there are also many opportunities, and it's important for us as international partners to identify these opportunities and build and support on these opportunities that are Yemeni-led. There's also an opportunity to work with the proliferation of newly formed youth initiatives that have emerged following the protests in 2011. These youth initiatives face many financial and technical challenges. They are often not registered with the government and so are not eligible for donor funds. But there is a way to work with them either indirectly through small grants, which is what we've been trying to do, or by building their capacity to a level where they are then able to apply for larger grants to do their work.
لأنه للأسف إحنا عندنا 11,000 ما يقارب 12,000 منظمة مسجلة في وزارة الشؤون الاجتماعية، لكن أقل من 25% فيها هو الذي فعلا فعال. فليش؟ الشباب قادرين انهم يخلقوا منظمات، ومنظمات مش صوريه، مش منظمات اللي غرض منها بس عباره عن استرزاق، لا، قادرين انهم يخلقوا منظمات يكون لها تاثير ودور في الارض. انا مع هذه القناعة أنه لا يوجد للشاب اليمني في الوقت الحالي عذر أنه ما يكونش له دور إيجابي وفعال في تغيير الوضع اللي احنا فيه.
What we hope to achieve by the end of our first year of the Amplifying Youth Voices project is to begin to take steps to help young and active members of civil society to be able to better understand the structures of the issues that they're working on and the underlying causes and trigger points of the issues that they're working on, and to come up with specific and tangible policy proposals to be able to address the root causes of the issues that matter to them the most. In addition to that, we hope that they can begin to network amongst themselves in order to build more coalitions among issues of interest that they might have, but also to build links and to better understand the way that governance processes in the country work, so that when they do want to take these issues and make their voices heard within these processes, they know the best way that they can do that. And we see this first year as the beginning of a much longer engagement in Yemen on these issues more broadly.